All right, Sandra, a Virginia father is thanking Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin for pardoning him 2 years after he was arrested at a tense school board meeting. You'll remember this. Back in 2021, Scott Smith got heated and criticized the Loudoun County Public School Board for mishandling his daughter's sexual assault. He was arrested, charged, and convicted of disorderly conduct, though that was later dismissed. He says his daughter was attacked in the women's restroom by a male student who identified as a trans girl, and the school board tried to cover it up. Scott Smith joins us now for his first television interview following the pardon. So we were chatting off camera. Governor Youngkin had offered up a pardon for you before, and you said, no, thank you. I don't want that. Why?
Well, to be clear, it was only a month ago. It wasn't months ago. But because I didn't want to drop my appeal and accept responsibility for the charges that I was convicted of in the lower court. That was unacceptable to me. I really wanted to win this straight up on my own merit in court. But unfortunately, you know, as things have played out, and, you know, our justice system across this land is unfortunately politicized and weaponized to the hilt. And that should scare every American.
So you believe there's no way that you could have won in court?
I think I might have been able to win in court with a judge if it would have been the right judge. But no, I think in a jury, I think it would have been a hung jury at best. But you know what everybody didn't really understand is you know, I wasn't really fighting to clear my name from a disorderly conduct charge. I mean, I'm a country boy. I'm disorderly sometimes. You know, what this was all about is my free speech. You know, that should not have happened that day. You know,
take us back to the meeting, because we're looking at in the video here on the right-hand side of the screen. You had said to the school board that my daughter was the victim of a sexual assault at the hands of a boy who was dressed in a skirt, who wanted access to the girls' bathroom. And it turned out that this boy was also responsible, allegedly, for a sexual assault in another school. So what was going through your mind that day?
Well, actually, I never spoke to the school board. You know, that whole story is really kind of askew. You know, I was sitting in my little area, and a radical protester came, and I heard this shouting behind me, and I turned around, and it was my wife and her. I didn't even know my wife was there. You know, she came in behind me. So I stepped in, tried to explain to this lady what was going on. She looked at me dead in the face and said, "That's not true. That's not what happened. You're lying." And then the police came over and, you know, talked to us and said we needed to be kind to one another. And then, you know, you see the police walk away, and I turn back to engage this lady, and she looks at me and goes, "You're Scott, you know, with your business, and I'm going to ruin you on social media." I called her an expletive. The next thing I know, there's hands all over me, grabbing me from behind. You're not allowed to do that.
So you weren't even addressing the superintendent at the time, Scott Ziegler?
Never. Never. My wife and I were accosted by a radical parent.
Right. So, you know, all of this talk about, and here's the way it was covered. The Wall Street Journal editorial said this about the way that was all covered. The press treated Mr. Smith's verbal protest as part of some larger right-wing campaign of violence. The National School Boards Association cited that episode as an example of potential domestic terrorism in a letter to President Biden. Attorney General Merrick Garland followed with a letter asking the FBI and U.S. attorneys to investigate threats against local school boards that haven't materialized. These actions appear to have been an attempt to fit Mr. Smith into the Democratic Party's portrayal of conservative critics of government as motivated by hatred. What do you say to that?
It's all true. That's what they did. I mean, I just saw a FOIA'd piece of document earlier, actually, when I was sitting in the green room, of my case actually on a highlighted piece of paper that was FOIA'd out of the DOJ. It's not just that I was cited. You can see it highlighted. You know, I mean, they used me to silence moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and everybody else that we're starting this movement to protect our children and stand up for our rights, you know, to protect our children and say what we think's right for them. They tried to shut us down. And unfortunately, there's clear evidence that it somewhat worked. I mean, when you have the DOJ sending out that memo, that was bone chilling. I mean, it scared me for about 10 seconds.
How's your daughter doing?
She's doing pretty good. I mean, we have good days, we have bad days, but, you know, she's a teenager. I love her to death. She loves me. We hang out every day. I really look forward to the future with her and my wife. This will never, this isn't going to define us. I mean, we're going to put this behind us, over the next year. There's several more court battles to come, but it's all going to be okay.
Got to ask you real quick, because the prosecutor, Buddha Bibaraj, who was removed from the case, has criticized Youngkin, saying this political stunt by Governor Youngkin is an unprecedented and inappropriate intervention into an active legal case. He chose to interfere with the legal process, but not for justice, but for political gain. What do you say to her?
She's one of the most evil people I've ever met. Unfortunately, I had to deal with her face to face with the prosecution of the sexual predator of my daughter. We need to vote her out. If you live in somehow Buddha Bibaraj has not made news headlines. Everybody's talking about the big city Soros funded prosecutors. Somehow Buddha's flown under the radar.
She is partially funded by.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, she's one of the worst. And, this whole thing has been a political back and forth on both sides, unfortunately. We have a Republican sheriff, unfortunately, that refuses to take responsibility, for this as well. So there's a lot to come, and
there's an election in Virginia coming up on November the 7th.
There is, but at the end of the day, I'm a conservative, but I'm a patriot. I'm not, a staunch Republican, so I'm going to stand up for what's right and speak the truth.
We'll see how this all plays out. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
The world is seeing what happened to you. Appreciate it. Good luck in the future to you and your family.
Yeah, God bless. Thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.